Millions of people get super upset when their team loses a game. They yell at TVs, paint their faces, and feel really sad when players they don't even know mess up. But there's a huge group of people who just don't care at all. And scientists say their brains might work differently. Stay with me because what I'm going to tell you will change how you see sports fans. Here's something nobody talks about. Not caring about sports doesn't make you boring. It doesn't mean you don't care about stuff, and nothing is wrong with you. But something really cool is happening in your brain that's totally different from the 60% of Americans who love sports. Let's start with the big question. Why do so many people care so much about sports? Humans like being in groups. Thousands of years ago, being in a group kept you safe. Your group protected you from danger, helped you find food, and kept you alive. Sports teams? They're basically modern groups, just with cooler shirts. When someone watches their team, their brain makes a chemical called oxytocin. It's the same chemical that makes you love your family. Crazy, right? Their brain actually tricks them into thinking these rich athletes are part of their family. But here's where it gets cool. People who don't obsess over sports often don't feel a strong need to be part of a group. They're more independent. They're more likely to think, I don't need to belong to a big group to feel good about myself. And there's real science about this. A study from 2019 found that people who don't care about sports don't have as much us versus them thinking. Basically, they don't automatically hate the other team just because they're on the other side. But wait, it gets weirder. What happens in a sports fan's brain during a game is actually kind of scary. You know that excited feeling right before you open a birthday present? That's a chemical called dopamine in your brain. Sports fans get that same feeling during games. On every single play. Tiny bursts of excitement over and over. It's actually addictive. Brain scans show that watching your team lights up the same parts of your brain as gambling. And here's the important part. Not knowing what will happen is what makes it so powerful. You don't know if your team will win. That mystery keeps the dopamine coming. It's something called intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive reward pattern scientists know about. It's the same trick that makes slot machines work. The way it works is really similar to other addictions. Your brain doesn't really care where the dopamine comes from. It just wants more. People who don't care about sports, their dopamine systems just don't get excited by watching other people compete. And this might be genetic. Scientists at the University of Chicago think that differences in your genes can predict how much you'll care about watching competitive sports. Think about that. Your complete lack of interest in whether the Lakers win might literally be in your DNA. But there's another weird thing. Sports fans do something called BIRGing, borrowing other people's success. When their team wins, they say, we won. When their team loses, they lost. Notice how the word changes? People who don't obsess over sports don't do this as much. They stay more consistent. They don't need other people's wins to feel successful. Their confidence is more stable, less dependent on things they can't control. Before everyone gets mad in the comments, I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but I am saying there are real brain differences, and understanding them is really interesting. Here's something that sounds confusing. Sports fans often care more about other people's problems, at least on certain tests. They practice caring deeply about strangers' struggles, as long as those strangers wear their team's jersey. So why don't non-sports people feel the same way about athletes? It's about where you put your caring. Everyone can only care deeply about so many things. Sports non-fans often care deeply about different stuff, helping people, personal relationships, art projects, learning new things. A 2021 study found that people who don't care about sports scored way higher on tests about loving art and beauty. They're getting their emotional highs from art, music, nature, and ideas. Their brains want the same reward, meaning, connection, and amazing experiences. They're just finding it somewhere else. And let's be honest about something. For some people, not caring about sports is actually protection. Maybe they got bullied in gym class. Maybe sports culture made them feel left out. Maybe they're pushing back against how competitive and aggressive sports fans can be. Maybe they just never understood why adults yell at TVs over a ball. Your lack of interest might have a reason behind it, or maybe you just think it's boring. Both are totally fine. Here's what explains why sports fans and non-sports fans sometimes can't understand each other. It's about how you find meaning in life. Sports fans find meaning in stories, the underdog winning, the big comeback, the dynasty, the rivalry. It's exciting because you don't know what will happen. Real-life drama with real stakes. People who don't care about sports often think that randomness is pointless. They think, why would I get emotionally invested in something I can't control, done by people I don't know, in a game that doesn't affect my real life? They're not wrong, but sports fans aren't wrong either. It's just two different ways humans need story and meaning. One group finds epic stories in a championship season. The other finds it in a book, a relationship, a creative project, a science discovery. Here's what researchers call it: one-sided relationships versus actual participation. Sports fans build fake relationships with teams and players. Non-sports people prefer putting emotional energy where there's actual give and take, where their care actually matters to what happens, where they're doing something, not just watching. Neither is better, they're just different ways of dealing with life. A psychologist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi studied optimal experience, those moments when you're completely absorbed in something. He found that you can get into that zone through tons of different activities. For some people, it's watching sports. For others, it's literally anything else. And here's what's really interesting. People who don't obsess over sports often say they feel more present in their own lives. They're not spending 3 hours every Sunday watching someone else's struggle. They're living their own. There's something quietly powerful about that. So what does all this mean? If you don't care about sports, you're not missing out on some important human thing. You're just different. Your brain's reward system, your group instincts, your caring distribution, they're all set up differently. And that's perfectly okay. The next time someone asks, "Did you see the game?" and you genuinely could not care less, remember, you're not broken, you're not boring, you're just playing a different game, one that might, just maybe, matter more. If this made sense to you, you're probably going to love why quiet people actually process information completely differently than everyone else, and why that might be your biggest strength. Click one of these videos to find out why you think a little differently than the crowd.